folks. As you can see, I am joined now with our next incredible speakers. We are in the presence of continued greatness. So we've got Emily and Christina, excuse me. It's great to see you both again. Are we ready to discuss the balance of personalization while respecting privacy? This is a tricky one. So Christina, let's go over to you. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Christina Sweeney. I work at New Balance. I am the site analytics manager. So what that really entails is focusing on our consumer journey, whether that's on site and through marketing, really leveraging the tools we have with Telium and some site analytics with Adobe and Google Analytics on site, really taking the consumer down a path of purchase and kind of having them also repurchase with us. So really just taking all of that in and making it a holistic picture.
Amazing. So many exciting things happening at New Balance right now. And Emily, same for you. Let's talk a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. And thanks for having me. I'm Emily Wilson. I sit on our partnerships team here at Meta, formerly known as Facebook. So what I work on is thinking about how do we work with third parties and strategic partners like Telium to help our customers take advantage of our most performant and data-driven ad solutions here at Meta. So work really closely with partners like Telium, like I said, to ensure that our mutual customers like New Balance and potentially are set up for success over the long term when it comes to getting data into Facebook and utilizing that data to run the best possible ad campaigns.
Absolutely. And, when we opened up the session today, Heidi spoke a bit about this concept of the privacy paradox, but, really just that push and pull of we want our privacy to be respected and our data to be protected, but we also want to be known and have relevant experiences that recognize who we are and what we want. So Emily, I would love to get your vantage point just on the privacy paradox at Meta. How do you see brands approaching personalization and how are audiences reacting with concerns over privacy?
Yeah, that's a totally fair question. It's certainly top of mind for us at Meta, but we feel very strongly that personalization and privacy can coexist, that we can honor the choices that consumers are making about how their data gets used by still ensuring that they're getting really personalized experiences on Meta, which is ultimately good for them, good for Meta, and good for the businesses that are advertising to them. Obviously, we need data to understand about what a user might be interested in order to serve them a personalized ad. So we encourage our customers and businesses that advertise on Facebook to think about one, like ensuring that they have secure and reliable ways to share data with features like Conversions API that's available through Telium. We also encourage them to think about what is the value to an end customer of sharing their data with that business. Are there things that they can get access to that they might not otherwise? If they weren't to share that, just providing some level of incentive beyond a personalized ad, which can feel sort of far in the future, but what can they actually provide the customer today? That's some kind of incentive for them to share information with that business. But overall, and then I think the long term, we're starting to think at Meta about what we call privacy enhancing technologies, which are solutions that essentially allow us to continue to drive really strong ad performance, but don't have the same requirements about sharing of personal or user level data. So we are investing very heavily in that from a product perspective as well, because we do think it's really important, like I said, to try to sustain the really great ad performance that businesses have come to expect from Meta, but also at the same time honor the choices that consumers are making about how their data gets used.
Absolutely. I feel like we can really just watch the privacy paradox play out on Facebook, right? Christina, what about you? How is New Balance tackling this privacy paradox and still really driving those beautiful personalized experiences to stay competitive in your category?
Yeah, definitely. Something that is ever changing, I believe. As you look at New Balance, we have the US brand, but we also are global. So we face not only the CCPA laws in California, but we also are facing GDPR laws that we're always competing or, have to deal with. So one way we're leveraging Telium in this space is we're on our global sites utilizing the consent module that's actually available within Telium IQ. That just allows for that pop-up to happen on site to say, hey, do you consent to cookies, accept all? It's the thing that, we all see all the time on sites now. And same thing for the US, we have the privacy policy in our footer so people can opt out of cookies. That's something that, we are dealing with and could change. The other thing on the US that happens is we load it through one of our other partners, OneTrust, that we're able to have load rules and therefore manage, where things are being dedicated. Is this a functional cookie? Is it a marketing? And we're able to categorize it so people can opt out of whichever ones they want to.
And I'd love to build on that. I know you shared some really unique examples of ways that New Balance is personalizing experiences for your customers today. Can you tell us about some of those more innovative approaches that New Balance is taking right now?
Yeah, I think that it's a really exciting time for New Balance because we're constantly growing, and I've been here for 5 years and I've just seen it. One thing that so we're the official sponsor of the New York Marathon. One thing that we did last year, we're trying to do a little bit, take our learnings from last year and build upon it this year, is taking what we have on site and personalizing messages for the New York Marathon to the Northeast region. Granted, New York Marathon is a global marathon. It's one of the 6 majors. So it's a huge one. It's one of our biggest events that we do. However, most of the appeal is the Northeast. So we are tailoring messaging around running around that time. And we also have official gear from the New York Marathon, because New Balance is the sponsor, that we will showcase on our website to that region. Not to say other regions won't get other messaging. That's something that we're able to customize in Telium Audience Stream to say, here's a geolocation from the Northeast, serve up this message in the homepage. So really exciting. And there's just more opportunities, I think, like that we're able to do and will be leveraging throughout the year.
It's fun to think about running, and you're talking about the New Balance business is just growing. Can you talk a bit about what it was like to watch your business move forward as the pandemic set in? People's behavior was changing. What was the business response from New Balance?
Yeah, I think that it was so exciting because not only did a pandemic happened, so obviously not exciting there, but one thing that was exciting to see behavior change. All of a sudden, .com was the main source of our business. .com grew exponentially and still continues to grow from the pandemic. But not only that, running took off because people wanted to get outside. They wanted to move. Gyms were closed. It really just broadened, I think, our audience to New Balance having this great array of running shoes and apparel. So that was really exciting just to see take off during the pandemic.
Yeah, I know we had a fun laugh about athleisure also spiking as a result of the pandemic. And I have really enjoyed that movement, and I'm getting to dress a little bit more comfortably for work each day. Emily, another key factor that we've really watched transpire over the last couple of years is the loss of some of those data sources and signals that we've all come to rely on for our marketing strategies over the years. And as we kind of learn to become dependent on new sources of information, maybe our own data. At Telium, we've really seen our social platform connector usage just skyrocketing. Can you talk about what that looks like on Meta's side?
Yeah, so I would say we feel a great deal of urgency around this from the Meta side. So I'm sure everyone on this call is very familiar, but regulatory changes, platform changes. There's been a lot already. We're expecting more over time. Next year, Google Chrome is slated to deprecate third-party cookies, which will obviously have a very significant impact on the efficacy of the Facebook Pixel, which is what most of our advertisers that drive offsite use today to measure the efficacy of their ad campaigns, to help optimize, to target, et cetera. So because of that, we feel this very strong sense of urgency around helping advertisers get more reliable and secure ways to share data about what happens outside of Meta with Meta. And so that's why we've developed a product called Conversions API that we work very closely with Telium on. And I think our feeling internally is that advertisers, while they may not necessarily be feeling like a ton of impact from these changes today, over time, they're going to become greater and greater and greater. And so we feel, like I said, the strong sense of urgency to help our advertisers prepare for that future, to not lose any effectiveness of their ads, but rather establish these more secure and reliable ways to share data with Facebook, like Conversions API today. So we hear the same things, and we have a very effective sales team internally that's helping our customers understand the implications of these changes in the industry and prepare for them. I would say on the other side, I mentioned this earlier, but in addition to sort of preparing for that future, like ensuring that data can still be transmitted to Facebook and used for ad campaigns, we're also thinking like, what does it look like to sort of minimize the use of data and build and change our products or build new products in such a way that won't require the same level of data, but can still deliver the same performance. So that's where we're investing in, like I mentioned, these privacy enhancing technologies, things like federated learning and clean rooms and multi-party computation, which are all fairly technical and in very nascent stages at this point, but we're really excited about investing heavily in those technologies because we want our advertisers to be able to continue to operate and see great performance out of Meta, while in this sort of new world that we expect will be coming over the next few years.
I love that. I would love to go a step further on some of those PETs. And just, can you give us some examples of the value of that, whether it be a clean room or this federated learning, multi-party computation, these big areas where Meta is investing to provide the best possible experience for customers while maintaining their privacy? Paint that picture for us of what does that look like for the user? What's the value of that for the advertiser? Can you just tell us a little bit about some of those?
Yeah, so essentially the underlying concept of most of these privacy enhancing technologies is just how can we achieve the same performance without sharing the same amount of data that we do today. So you can imagine something like sort of a black box that lives in the cloud where an advertiser could send their customer data into the box. Facebook can send our information about what's happening on Facebook. It all gets mixed together. And then we only get the sort of aggregated potentially or like blinded information that we need to run an ad or to measure a campaign or to optimize a campaign. And the advertiser only gets out from Facebook what they need to understand the performance. So that's like a really reductive way of understanding it. But essentially, it's just how do we enable performance without requiring a business to share user level data with us. So that's what we're really excited about. There's a couple different applications of that, but I think the value to the business is obviously for the long term. We expect these, like I said, more regulations and more changes to platforms that will we're anticipating that will become the new normal. And so investing in it now can help prepare for that new feature. For the consumer, again, it's just making sure that we're honoring and being respectful of the choices that they're making about how to share, how their data is used. Ideally, if we can sort of eliminate the need to share that user level data, then we honor any choice that they make because everything can be done in sort of an aggregated or anonymized way. Does that answer your question, Lauren?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Data is front and center for all of our businesses. Christina, will you tell us about New Balance before a CDP and now New Balance with a CDP? Can you just kind of paint a picture of that timeline and what that process was like internally at New Balance?
Sure. Yeah. So when I first got here, we only had Telium IQ. Since being here, we implemented both Event Stream and Audience Stream. Actually, through what Emily was speaking about, we have Facebook in Event Stream, which is the conversions API that Emily is mentioning, as along with having Facebook in TIQ. So that's just kind of helped to increase the attribution there. Now, when you're talking about audience stream, we're able to really hone in on what our consumer behavior is and serve up a personalized experience based on the group that they are in. So some of the things that we've done and implemented through audience stream, and just kind of going into that, we did have to get the buy-in from our IT team, our digital team, and really partner with our marketing team as well, because they're the ones that are going to be serving up a lot of this messaging, especially with our email team, because all of our audiences that we are creating in Telium, a lot of them are getting sent to our then email CDP that is then really pushing out these messaging and enhancing, just our marketing overall. So what we've done is really created some unique experiences, such as cart abandonment, which was one of our most successful. Obviously, it has like an offer promoted with it, so it appeals to more people. But also we've done, really segmented groups like running, apparel purchasers, basketball. These are really niche audiences that are coming into our site, really looking for some things. We've done browsers, we've done browse abandonment, we've done purchasers for these categories to really send them some unique messaging, especially when these energy moments, the high energy moments that we have on site are happening, like our partnership with Kawhi Leonard, sending out, hey, basketball browsers, here's a message for you, you're probably interested in this. So really unique things like that, I think, are exciting for the brand.
Absolutely. And you touched on one influencer, if you will. Tell us a little bit more. I know folks are always interested in influencer collaborations. That seems to be a pretty successful strategy for New Balance.
Good timing, because if you go to our site now, we have a collab with Teddy Santos, which is he's a designer, and we're partnering with our Made in the USA. So it's really unique to New Balance. We are one of the few, if only like one of the sneaker brands that make a lot of our shoes in the USA, which is really unique to New Balance. That's how we started. All of our shoes used to be made in the USA. That's kind of our cornerstone. So we have such a great story to tell, and it's on site right now. Just launched today. So really good timing if people want to go to the site. But we are constantly working with creators like that. We've done partnerships with Joe Freshgoods. We just got off of one called Conversations Amongst Us. It's still on the site. So definitely there's just constant collaborations that are happening. This used to be something that would happen maybe twice a year, and is now happening maybe 3 or 4 times a month. So I feel like that's the stuff that's really exciting for the brand that we're constantly doing.
Very cool. I love that. I follow a lot of sneakerheads on social media. So I'm not a sneakerhead per se, but I think that world is really fascinating. Emily, we talk a lot internally about, with all the loss of those data signals that we've relied on historically, first party data is the answer. And, just kind of turning our focus internally to focus on what we have and maximizing that. Can you talk to us from your viewpoint when you look out across the retailers that partner with Meta on Facebook, who has some really cool examples of success from putting their own first party data first and really kind of shifting away from relying on those external sources of information and bringing it all in-house to focus on the customer information they own and know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in the retail and e-commerce vertical, like the one that Christina sits in, that's where we see a ton of really interesting innovation, especially with our custom audiences feature. So folks are not familiar, that's a feature that allows you to upload a list of customers of your own first party data that gets matched to users on Facebook, and you can use that for targeting of an ad campaign. So I would say the most interesting things we see are really like good, strong segmentation of users. So it's kind of what Christina was talking about with customizing of the website. We see that work really well when brands think about how to customize ad campaigns for certain segments of users. So whether it's a campaign about a particular collaboration and they're sending ads to customers that they know have purchased from other collaborations or have an interest in a certain subset of footwear, or it's potentially like Christina mentioned for New Balance, where there's a region-specific activation and they want to target campaigns that way. I think we've seen a lot, as you mentioned, as access to third-party data is being phased out. We've seen a lot of brands doubling down on the custom audiences product, and that's been really cool and interesting to see.
So to build on that, in looking at some of the big shifts and changes that you've observed over the last 6 months, say, in the way that brands are activating across Meta, what advice would you give to retailers, just in terms of taking a step back and building their plans for the rest of this year into next year? What do retailers need to be keeping in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I sound like a broken record, but investing in these ways to transmit data into Meta that are more secure and reliable, like Conversions API, is what we sort of reiterate to our clients over and over, that preparing for this future, even though the future may not be here today, preparing for this future is super important. And you can also gain some benefits. So today, if you rely exclusively on the Pixel, you can lose signal due to ad blockers or connectivity issues, and you only have access to the information, the signal that's happening within a website. So if you're a customer that's using Conversions API, you're able to sort of supplement the information that comes through the Pixel, potentially with lower funnel signals that are more tied to the business outcome you care about, such that we see like an average 8% decrease in CPA from businesses who have implemented Conversions API and Pixel redundantly. So there is a short-term benefit as well. And like I mentioned before, beyond that specific product, we encourage businesses to think about, like, how do they incentivize getting more customer data? So investing in loyalty programs and things like that really provide a clear value to the customer. It is super important. So those are the two big things I would say. And then, as we mentioned, like starting to think about what will the future look like in this world of privacy enhancing technologies and how they might be able to be at the forefront of that. Those are sort of the three things that we try to encourage our customers to think about today. Fantastic.
Christina, privacy at New Balance. There's a team of people, right? It's a big deal. Can you kind of talk about the evolution of how New Balance has supported privacy and consent management and orchestration over the last, couple of years, and what some of those plans entail going into the future?
Yeah, I think that this was so interesting because I feel like privacy really popped up with the GDPR and CCPA. We actually had a pod dedicated to data privacy and actually now have a leader in that space that I work closely with, along with our legal team, to make sure and ensure that no data is being passed through that shouldn't be. If people are opting out of our marketing, they're opting out of everything that's going into that, and also, kind of universal. So any messaging with email, if they want to opt out of, that's something that we really focus on, especially when we're talking about, targeting for email. I actually just did this exercise with our email team where we had to have a known and opted in user in order to market to them, even if we had them in our basketball, browser audience. We can't market to them if they opted out. So that's something that we're constantly working with. And I think that that's going to just continue to flow as the years go on. So it's something that we are staying at the forefront of and making sure and ensuring that our consumers feel comfortable shopping with us without being targeted heavily.
Perfect. We do have a handful of questions that are coming into the chat for both of you. So I'd like to take a few minutes to start teeing up a couple of these. Okay, this one is for you, Emily. What should retailers be doing to get ready for the metaverse?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will caveat by saying that's slightly outside of my scope here at Meta, but we have a lot of people who are thinking about that and investing in it. I think the most interesting examples that we see today are, again, sort of in the retail and e-com space with the home try-on. That's where we've seen like a lot of adoption and really successful campaigns from retailers who either do, you know, like a sunglass try on or some really cool AR experiences where you can visualize what the furniture you're seeing might look like in your home. So I would say, I guess from my perspective, like keep an open mind and start to think about it. If you wait too long, you might kind of be left behind. So while it may seem like kind of this like hyper technical specialized technology that you don't really need to worry about, I think it's worthwhile to start investigating and potentially investing in some small tests now. I will also give a plug that my team, as the partnerships team, we try to build really great relationships with third parties who can add a ton of value, like we have with Telium on the CDP side. And similarly, when we think about the metaverse and creating content for the metaverse, we have a lot of great partners that help businesses not only create like really amazing AR experiences, but think about how to build that into their strategy. So that's what I would say is like start thinking about it now, even if you don't expect it to be a major part of your marketing. We're anticipating over the next several years that it will become a larger and larger chunk. So start thinking about it today.
Fantastic. Okay. And Emily, while I have you, another question for you. Can you speak to whether the conversion API helps to improve digital twins for enhancing lookalike audience reach and conversion?
So I'm not totally sure what the asker means by digital twins, but I would say broadly, yes. So Conversions API is a way to get data about what happens outside of Meta into Meta for use in targeting, optimization, and measurement. So today you could build a website custom audience based on the pixel and create a lookalike off of that. But that website custom audience will be subject to the same limitations that the pixel is subject to. So over time, it may not be able to capture the same amount of data about your customers. And today already it's subject to connectivity issues, ad blockers, et cetera. So if you have all the information, all your first party data in a CDP like Telium, you can send that to us via Conversions API and ensure that your audience is being created with the maximum match rate versus losing some of that to the pixel and to the changes to the browser pixel. So I would say there isn't like a definitive number that we could say if you use Conversions API, it's going to be a higher match rate of XYZ. But generally, we would expect that match rates and therefore lookalike audiences would be higher and more performant because it's relying on that first party data being sent through this really secure channel as opposed to relying on the browser pixel.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that. Christina, we're getting some New Balance love. Audience loves New Balance. Question for you as well. What is the general mix of in-store versus online sales for New Balance? And how do you see that changing in the future?
So I can't speak to the exact mix because I really only focus on .com. I do work with our